Okay, I believe we're live, and I'll give it another second or two just to think a little bit, but I believe we're live. This is with reduced quality of video because I am watching other live streamers on Twitch and on YouTube, and honestly, the quality isn't that great. I'm seeing a maximum of 720p in the largest streamers, so I'm not going to press myself too hard for having like a lower quality. I was trying to go over 1080p, but it just makes everything laggy, so I'm going to see if this works. And hopefully it does. I mean, it's saying excellent quality. We will see from the video itself. Let me see one more thing when it comes down to the audio. The audio isn't very high. I'm not sure the reasoning for that. Is this better? I don't really want to hold this thing while I'm talking, but maybe I'll need to. You never know. And I think I want to keep things in the yellow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a video. I'm going to hope that the frames are kept pretty high, and I am also going to try to make sure that the microphone can pick up what I am watching. So we're going to go right over here to unions are good and cool and why you should have one in your workplace. I'm going to play about maybe 30 seconds, 20 seconds of this, and then I will show a chart, which is very important to understand.
Hey gang, this episode is brought to you by Means TV, the world's first anti-capitalist streaming service. Stick around after the episode to learn a bit more about Means and to snag a nice little discount as a thank you for supporting my channel. Earlier this year, about 50,000 dock workers went on strike for the first time in almost 50 years.
Dock workers are on strike.
Tens of thousands of workers, they're striking over pay and concerns about automation.
This is going down in history, what we're doing here.
For 3 days, workers on the East Coast shut down 36 ports going all the way from Boston to Houston, blocking about half of the U.S.'s imports and two-thirds
Okay, so what's happening now
via container.
is...
At around $5 billion a day, this was...
I'm getting a warning, and it's saying that the current video resolution is 2692 by, some crazy ridiculous number. And what I don't understand is why the hell that is possible when I just went into the settings and changed the resolution from 1080p to 720p. So why is it showing at, whatever, 1300p, which is the most random number of all time? Output. Video. Why is it doing this? Why is it at this? I'm so pissed. I'm so pissed. I'm so pissed. All right, I'm going to be back live in about 20 seconds. All right, now we're streaming at 720p. I seriously do not understand what the hell is wrong with this computer. What the hell is wrong with this platform? OBS, I'm sure it's not my fault. It's just something I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to get better, obviously, at this whole streaming thing. And it's just really frustrating because I go into settings, I turn it to 720p because the computer that I'm using right now needs to work at 720p. I try to do 1080, it kind of works, kind of doesn't. And then for some reason, sometimes it just flips and goes to like 1440p. And I'm like, dude, I can't stream at 1440p because I can't do 1080p. So why the hell are you kicking me up to 1440p? I'm trying to do that. Anyway, so here's a video.
Of the most costly strikes for shipping companies ever. As you might have heard, these dock workers were striking for very reasonable things. Things like higher wages and protection from automation now that their current contract has expired. It's not yet clear exactly what their new contract will look like, but thanks to the 3-day strike, they've got a tentative deal for a massive 60% raise over the next 6 years. The automation issue isn't resolved yet, but soon...
That is incredible, okay? $63 an hour is unbelievable, up from 39, and that's the thing. It can literally afford it.
Highest paid dock worker will be making about $63 an hour. And this is pretty amazing. In a world of mass layoffs and wages getting eaten away by inflation, workers just got a huge result in just 3 days. Because while workers' wages were slowly stagnating and the threat of automation kept increasing, the shipping industry made $400 billion in profit in just the last 3 years.
And that's the real catcher, where you can have a profitable business. Oh my God. I'm sorry. It's just, giving me, YouTube is not doing this. YouTube is not doing that. It's not getting enough video stream. Again, it's giving me the thing saying that it's at 1440. Why is it at 1440? Hold on. Let's check settings. Let's see if they magically changed behind my back. No. Oh my god, whatever, dude. I'm gonna wrap this thing up, but I am gonna show this graph because I think it's really important to see and for people to understand. This is unionization rate, along with share of income going to the top 10%. And this, you can read this the same way you can read this as share of income going to the top 10%. You can also read it as share of income going to the bottom 90%. And the way you do that is simply by using subtraction. So if this is the share, say 35% is going to the top 10%, you can do the exact opposite and say that 65% is going to the bottom 90%. And you can see this graph here, as the unionization rate goes up, the share of income going to the top 10% goes down, which also means that the share of income going to the bottom 90% goes up. Now, what does that mean in terms of this graph? Well, it means that in the 1920s and 30s, some of the worst economic depressive periods in American history, 45% went to the top 10%, meaning only 55% went to the bottom 90%. And then what happened was, through a steep increase in unionization, you saw a sharp decrease in the share of income going to the top 10%. Now, what that actually meant is that the share of income went from 35% to the top 10%. Or I'm sorry, that means that over time, the bottom 90%, the share that went to the bottom 90% increased by 10%. Okay? And that can be seen all through here, up until the beginning, or right around the beginning of the 80s. Once unionization rate started to really drop off, then once again, the share of wealth going, or the share of income going to the top 10% went through the roof. And again, what does this mean? It means that the share of income for the bottom 90% went from 65% at its peak right here, 65% over 30 years, 20 years, went down to 45%. Right here was only 50%. So the bottom 90 gets 50% of the wealth, while the top 10 gets 50%. Where here it was much more equal. I mean, in theory, it should be 10% and 10% and 90%. Although that would never really happen. It would be more so like 20%, 90%, or really maybe like a 30-20, or a 30-70 kind of deal, where the bottom 90% get 70% of the revenue, where the top 10 get 30% of the revenue. But either way, I think it's a very expressive chart and something that makes it pretty clear that we need to work towards a higher unionization rate. And I think that's it. That's all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to see how this video comes out in terms of quality, in terms of smoothness, in terms of being able to do this with my hands and not having it skip all over the place. And I'm reading the YouTube analytics right now, and it looks like, what do we have here? Not saying anything right now. Just funny. Not enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Well, anyway, that's the end. So thank y'all for watching.